Hello, everyone. This is Marilynn Hughes of the Out of Body Travel Foundation. I wanted to share with you just something I came across that I felt expressed my understanding of faith very well. And it's from Thomas Merton's New Seeds of Contemplation. And he speaks about faith in a very particular way, which I think is really helpful. Just a quick reminder, please subscribe to our channel. It keeps us searchable for everyone on YouTube. And if you can, please consider becoming a member. Just click the join button to see our 5 different options for membership. Memberships help us keep our resources available for free download for everyone in the world. And so we so appreciate our members and all those who consider becoming members. So please subscribe, become a member if you can. So this is what Thomas Merton says. The beginning of contemplation is faith. There is something essentially sick about your conception of faith. You will never be a contemplative. Hi, John. Welcome to my live stream. First of all, faith is not an emotion, not a feeling. It is not a blind subconscious urge towards something vaguely supernatural. It is not simply an elemental need in man's spirit. It is not a feeling that God exists. It is not a conviction that one is somehow saved or justified for no special reason except that one happens to feel that way. Welcome, Adriana. I'm sorry about the streaming stopping yesterday, Adriana. My internet bonked on me. So thank you for joining me today. And we are talking about Thomas Merton and his views on faith from New Seeds of Contemplation by Thomas Merton. It is not something entirely interior and subjective with no reference to any external motive. It is not just soul force. It is not something that bubbles up out of the recesses of your soul and fills you with an indefinable sense that everything is all right. It is not something so purely yours that its content is incommunicable. It is not some personal myth of your own that you cannot share with anyone else, and the objective validity of which does not matter either to you or God or anybody else. But also, it is not an opinion. It is not a conviction based on rational analysis. It is not the fruit of scientific evidence. You can only believe what you do not know. As soon as you know it, you no longer believe it, at least not in the same way as you know it. And I love him bringing this point up because so many times I try to tell people in interviews and otherwise that if you've seen it and you know it to be true, it becomes something different than just purely faith. So we have faith, but we also have knowing. And some of this knowing comes from the out-of-body experiences that I've had and that other people have had and are having. And so this is an excellent way that he is differentiating them. Faith is, first of all, an intellectual assent. It perfects the mind. It does not destroy it. It puts the intellect in possession of truth, which reason cannot grasp by itself. It gives us certitude concerning God as he is in himself. Faith is the way to a vital contact with a God who is alive, not to the view of an abstract first principle worked out by syllogisms from the evidence of created things. But the assent of faith is not based on the intrinsic evidence of a visible object. The act of belief unites two members of a proposition which have no connection in our natural experience. That's very important what he's differentiating there. But also, there is nothing within reach of reason to argue that they are disconnected. The statements which demand the assent of faith are simply neutral to reason. We have no natural evidence why they should be true or why they should be false. We assent to them because of something other than intrinsic evidence. We accept their truth as revealed, and the motive of our assent is the authority of God who reveals them. But when he's talking here about something other than intrinsic evidence, I immediately think of the infusion of the Holy Spirit, because faith does not occur unless it is infused, given to us by the Holy Spirit. Adriana says, very good point on knowledge and faith. Spot on. Thank you, Adriana. Yes, isn't this an amazing little differentiation given to us by Thomas Merton? I am a big fan of Thomas Merton. So faith is not expected to give complete satisfaction to the intellect. It leaves the intellect suspended in obscurity without a light proper to its own mode of knowing. Yet it does not frustrate the intellect or deny it or destroy it. It pacifies it with a conviction which it knows it can accept quite rationally under the guidance of love, right? For the act of faith is an act in which the intellect is content to know God by loving him and accepting his statements about himself on his own terms. So therefore, we go back to revealed truth, revelation, and also ancient sacred texts. And this assent is quite rational because it is based on the realization that our reason can tell us nothing about God as he actually is in himself, and on the fact that God himself is infinite actuality and therefore infinite truth. Wisdom, power, and providence can reveal himself with absolute certitude in any manner he pleases, and can certify his own revelation of himself by external signs. Faith is primarily an intellectual assent, but if it were only that and nothing more, if it were only the, quote, argument of what does not appear, unquote, it would not be complete. It has to be something more than an assent of the mind. It is also a grasp, a contact, a communion of wills, the substance of things to be hoped for. By faith, one not only assents to propositions revealed by God, one not only attains to truth in a way that intelligence and reason alone cannot do, but one assents to God himself. One receives God. One says yes, not merely to a statement about God, but to the invisible, infinite God himself. One fully accepts the statement not only for its own content, but for the sake of him who made it. And how do these descriptions fit when we feel that infusion of the Holy Spirit that brings faith to us in our life, brings that seeking, awakening spirit where we want to know? We want to know. Too often, our notion of faith is falsified by our emphasis on the statements about God, which faith believes, and by our forgetfulness of the fact that faith is actually a communion with God's own light and truth. Very important there. Actually, the statements, the propositions which faith accepts on the divine authority are simply media through which one passes in order to reach the divine truth, right? Faith terminates not in a statement, not in a formula of words, but in God. If instead of resting in God by faith, we rest simply in the proposition or the formula, It is small wonder that faith does not lead to contemplation. On the contrary, it often leads to anxious, hair-splitting arguments, to controversy, to perplexity, and ultimately to hatred and division. It is, of course, quite true that theology can and must study the intellectual content of revelation, and especially the verbal formulation of divinely revealed truth. But once again, this is not the final object of faith. Faith goes beyond words and formulas and brings us the light of God Himself. The importance of the formulas is not that they are ends in themselves, but that they are means through which God communicates His truth to us. They must be kept clear. They must be clean windows so that they may not obscure and hinder the light that comes to us. They must not falsify God's truth. Therefore, we must make every effort to believe and understand the correct formulas. But we must not be so obsessed with verbal correctness that we never go beyond the words to the ineffable reality which they attempt to convey. Beautifully said, right? Faith, then, is not just the grim determination to cling to a certain form of words no matter what may happen, though we must certainly be prepared to defend our creed. But above all, faith is the opening of an inward eye, the eye of the heart, to be filled with the actual presence of the divine light. Ultimately, faith is the only key to the universe, the final meaning of human existence, and the answers to questions on which all our happiness depends cannot be reached in any other way. So when he's saying these things, I wonder if you go where my mind goes, which is, yes, faith is the seedbed of everything that follows. And so when we talk about the vibrations, the vibrational raisings, the frequency shifts that we undergo in reaching the truth, isn't that what he's referring to? That they can't be reached in any other way. We have to open the inward eye and be filled with the presence of that divine light. And then that filling, that Holy Spirit, that movement is what propels us forward, not only in our faith journey, but then in our spiritual awakening and unfolding that subsequently arise when we allow the Holy Spirit to animate us with that initial draw of faith. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back in a few minutes with another live stream. Again, just a quick reminder, please subscribe to our channel. It helps us to remain searchable on YouTube and across the internet, which is really important in order to find ways for those who are searching for what we have to offer to actually locate us and find our website and all of our free resources. And also consider becoming a member if you have not done so already. If you've already done so, thank you so much. Our memberships help us to keep all of our resources free to everyone who wishes to join us. And so I'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you for joining me here, and we'll be right back.